lot of these teams still playing preseason football, and you could see it. I think Philadelphia was one of them, and Nick Sirianni had some comments about that. Why don't we, Xander, if we would, bring on my guest, my esteemed guest, and that is the great Sal Paolantonio, the senior correspondent from ESPN, played by analyst, NFL analyst, and of course, noted author. How you doing, Sal?
Pat, I'm great. It's been a march through the Northeast, starting in NFL Films on Friday. Well, actually, starting with This Week in Pro Football on Thursday, and then NFL Films Friday, up to Foxborough for the Eagles opener against the Patriots. Survive in advance, Pat, in the National Football League. You got to survive in advance.
Right.
And then the quick turnaround, I was pressed into service like a Jack Tar sailor back in the day, and did the game on Monday night. And here we are going to Get Up tomorrow. It's a big, big story. I've been on ABC News pretty much all day online. It's a huge international story, what happened to Aaron Rodgers last night.
All right, so you're still in New York, so let's just touch on that. We'll get into it further after the break. But just your immediate thoughts as a guy who's been on thousands of sidelines, the excitement and the electricity that was in the air when Rodgers came on the field, and then 4 plays later, it was just the most unbelievable just drop in temperature I think I've seen in a football game.
Yeah, to a man, and every fan that I talk to, they've never experienced a range of emotions like that, Pat. On the anniversary of 9/11, it was very emotional, and Aaron Rodgers led the way with the American flag coming out of the tunnel, and the place was a green and white electric show,
right?
Pyrotechnics, and then 4 plays into the season, he's done. And I went down to the X-ray room, and I could see right then and there when he was brought in on the card, the look on his face was one of total despondence.
Yeah. Sal, I'm cautioning in my open, and I'll do it throughout the show, about overreactions, and yet I've got to ask you your thoughts about the New York Jets. Is there any way a team with a lot of promise, a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and some good offensive talent? I thought the running backs looked good. That receiver is special. Can they overcome this?
Well, they got to do 2 things. First of all, they've got to regroup and not embarrass themselves in Dallas like the Giants did on Sunday night.
Right.
So you got to play a football game, Pat. That's what you're paid to do. That's what you got to coach to do. You got to play a football game, and you can't embarrass yourself. I'm not saying they go down to Dallas and win, but God forbid they lose 40-0, and then the wheels will come off totally. Yeah. So that is number 1, job 1 in the building. Number 2, you got to fortify the quarterback position in a number of ways. First and foremost, you got to find a better idea than they had on Monday night. Pat, they left tackle Dwayne Brown one-on-one with the notorious Leonard Floyd, one of the best veteran pass rushers the league has seen in the last 10 years.
Right.
Floyd used him as a turnstile. He barely touched him.
Yeah.
Floyd comes in and torques Aaron Rodgers around. That was right after Mekhi Becton allowed a leak of pressure from the right side.
Oh, yeah.
So their pass block win rate right now stands as 32nd in the National Football League. And if you're scoring at home, that is the bottom.
Right. And
if they don't fix that or find a way to protect the quarterback, which is something you and I discussed a couple of weeks ago. We said, roll out, move the pocket. And in the first series, Pat, they have him static on a 5 and 7 step drop. What are we doing?
I know. Well, Sal, we'll talk about maybe some more overreactions after the break. Just a quick word here. We have about a minute, Sal. Philadelphia and New England. You had mentioned survive in advance. Jalen Hurts said a win is a win. But still, Philadelphia, the fewest total yards since week 6 of 2021. Thank you for the notes you sent me. Are there any? Do you have any reservations at all? Was there anything you saw in the offenses, the lack of luster of the offense, that might concern you for more than just one game?
Well, I think they have to definitely clean things up, and they know that they do. If Xander of our intrepid producer, Xander of JAKIB Media, wants to re-rack the tape from last week, I said the Eagles would win the game 24-20. I was off by 1 point.
You were way off, Sal, way off. All right.
And I realized, listen, it's hard to win on the road in the NFL. It's still harder to win on the road in Foxborough against Bill Belichick, and harder still when you're coming off a Super Bowl loss and you didn't play your starters all summer long.
Right.
So
Right
there
on
was
all counts. Right on all counts.
So to me, they've got to regroup. They've got to find a way to get the ball to Dallas Goedert. That's a simple math.
Right.
Throw it to the tight end.
Right.
Get the ball out of your hands and throw it to the tight end. And then they've got to find an identity at the running back position. They started with Gainwell. They didn't activate Rashad Penny. They got some stuff to do on offense, and luckily the Vikings are in town.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll do that after the break, Sal. We'll talk about Thursday night football. Then there are some week one overreactions I would like to rapid fire with you. All right. And then we'll talk about Nakobe Dean and whether or not how significant an injury that is for Philadelphia. We're going to do all that with Sal Paolantonio when we get back on This Week Pro Football. Welcome back. This Week in Pro Football presented by Kennedy Ford. Pat Callahan joining you week two, the National Football League. And, of course, the great Sal Paolantonio joining me from ESPN. I know, Sal, you're running on – I don't know if you're running on – I don't think you ever run on fumes, but I know the gas tank's probably like a quarter. Hopefully you can get back, do a little – you'll be back in Philadelphia, I assume, for Thursday night. Is that right?
I will. I'll be on Channel 6 and SportsCenter and NFL Live and all that good stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest story there against the Vikings is the Eagles have manhandled the Vikings, and all they have to do is take care of business. So, hey, it's survive in advance. You won on the road, which they've done 3 years in a row in the opener. And you've got a short week. You have some injuries to deal with.
Right.
You've handled Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson in the past. They do have a different defensive coordinator, though. This is the key thing, right? This is the number one thing to watch in this game. Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator. He is much different from Ed Donatel, who was the defensive coordinator who was boosted out of there after they lost that playoff game to the Giants. Donatel was very Gannon-like, static. And Brian Flores is A Bill Belichick disciple, and B, likes to bring the heat.
Yes.
So this will be a game where the Eagles will face a different defense than they have in the past, and they're going to have to game plan differently for this game offensively.
All right. Minnesota, from their angle, Sal, they come in off what I called, what I said was a disastrous performance week one.
Yes.
Against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucs. They lose the game outright. How motivated do you expect Minnesota to be coming in here against an Eagles team, especially and one guy in particular, Justin Jefferson, who was basically shut out last year when they came to Philadelphia.
Justin Jefferson, who wants more money, a new contract. Talk about motivation. That guy has left a lot of money on the table. And, listen, you only have 17 games in the National Football League, so you're motivated every week. But more so when you lose to Baker Mayfield. And I happen to like, as you know, I've always talked him up. But you can't lose to Baker Mayfield at home in the opener. You just can't. So the Vikings are in trouble. Capital letters, in trouble. And the Eagles are not going to let them get out of trouble. I can tell you that right now. They're just not.
Sal, you mentioned the running back position, and I've never been a big fan of this. And the Eagles always extend the running back by committee, 3 guys, 4 guys shuttling in and out. Not a big fan of that. You mentioned they need an identity. By identity, do you mean a singular player being the lead guy week in, week out?
No, Pat. The identity that I mean, that you and I have talked to until we're blue in the face, even over pancakes at Uncle Bill's Pancakes with Johnny G down in OC, is we don't want the quarterback getting hurt by being the number one option when the team's in trouble in the running game.
Right.
And we saw that in New England. And we saw it when he got hit by Jabril Peppers and coughed up the football in the fourth quarter and took a real big shot that could have really hurt him and may have ended his season. That was a heavy-duty shot by a big, tough player who was intent on dislodging the football. So the identity that I'm talking about is, please do something that mitigates the need for Jalen Hurts to carry the football when the team is in trouble. That's the bottom line.
Right.
I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts has to abandon his running game. It's an important part of the Eagles' offense. I get that.
Yeah.
But this is why you brought in Rashad Penny. He is a big, tough, between the tackles runner. And then you deactivated him.
I know.
I didn't understand that move at all.
I know. And Sal, I've always espoused, and why I always talk about one lead running back is I always thought by the fourth quarter, the Houston Oilers offensive line knew where Earl Campbell was going, right? And I could cite many other examples of where an offensive line and a running back start to feed off each other as to how a play is going to proceed. By shuttling guys in and out, week in, week out, I think you do not allow for that type of synergy to develop, especially when the guys you're running in, one is smaller than the next. I mean, wouldn't the Eagles be better off if they would commit to a larger guy, especially in the second half, to tote the rock?
Well, I mean, we always talk about running the football more in Philadelphia with Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, Doug Peterson. Doesn't matter. But when they won the Super Bowl, when they won Super Bowl 52, they had LeGarrette Blount and then Howie Roseman brought in Jay Ajayi.
Right.
And they had to go out to the West Coast and beat the Chargers. They beat them with the running game.
Right. Two big guys too, by the way, Ajayi and Blount. Yeah.
The thing is, when you need them to get you out of trouble, are they available, and have you done it enough that you can do it effectively?
Fair enough. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'd like to see. I imagine Penny will be activated for Thursday night. I think you get a big dose of Gainwell. I understand is nursing rib injury. I think he'll be deactivated. I think it'll be Penny and Swift. I think Philadelphia is going to come out, Sal, and play very, very tough football. To me, Sal, this doesn't look at all good for the Minnesota Vikings.
No, definitely not. They never come in here and beat the Eagles. I don't expect them to do that. I listen, for all the things that happen that can be picked apart on Sunday, they struggled, they fought, and they realized that they were in a fight at halftime, and they came out and they won the game. This team has resilience and character.
Yep, that's fair. Especially at the end when he fumbled that ball, the defense shut them down right away. So you're right about that. All right, we're talking, of course, with Sal Paolantonio. Sal, let's get around the league a little bit, and I want to rapid fire you with some overreactions. I think some of these reactions to Week 1 were almost humorous, and I want to try out some with you and to tell me what you think. Obviously, Dallas demolishes the New York Giants on Sunday night, so the Cowboys are, in fact, the Super Bowl champions after Week 1. Did we underrate Dallas? Are they better than we thought?
Yes, I think we underrated Dallas, and I think they're better than we thought. That's my bottom line. I mean, if the quarterback's not going to turn the ball over, and that defense, which created the most turnovers of any team in the league last year, gives him a short field, hello.
Yep.
That's a problem. That's a big problem for the rest of the league. Big.
Are the New York Giants worse than we thought?
They're 100% worse. No question about it. Hey, listen, the so-called, and I like Brian Daboll, but come on. Nick Sirianni was the coach of the year last year. Nick Sirianni went 3-0 against Brian Daboll. Daboll, the reigning coach of the year, gets embarrassed on Sunday Night Football 40-0. Totally. Team was unprepared. Unprepared for the pass rush, and I would have taken Daniel Jones out of the game.
Yeah. I would. I think the Giants. I was very skeptical. I had Pat Leonard on the show late last week, and I challenged him a little bit. I don't see the Giants having the kind of star skilled players that are going to compete in the NFC East, and I think that was proven again Sunday night.
Yes, absolutely. They may finish last in the division.
Yeah. Sal, I'd like to get your opinion on this one. Kansas City loses to Detroit. Now, look, that's a surprise, granted. That's always seemingly a lock for the defending Super Bowl champion to win that Thursday night opener. But Detroit, not a bad team. My question to you is the Chiefs showing a little bit of hubris here with not stocking that wide receiver position? with really any notable players at all.
Well, they have all their money now in Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and a couple of other players. And their tight end, their all-world tight end, is 34 years old. And that game proved once and for all that life in the NFL is better with a Kelsey brother on the field.
Yes. Yeah, it certainly did.
So listen, here's what we got. Patrick Mahomes lost. Joe Burrow lost.
Right.
Josh Allen lost. Right? Justin Herbert lost.
Yeah.
Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Mahomes all lost. So the highway, the I-70 highway to Russell Wilson lost. I mean, right? So now you're looking at, all right, well, I realize you don't want to overreact on week one, but Pat, when you get a week one loss, it's hard to make that up sometimes late in the year when you're looking for home field advantage in the postseason.
I agree, but I think the Cowboys, I think you're right. They are better.
No, I'm looking at just look AFC now. I'm looking at AFC.
Okay. Oh, yeah. AFC, yeah. I think it was not a good week for the AFC, for the top tier of the AFC.
Except for one team, Pat. And we talked about it. The Cleveland Browns. I got two words for you. Jim Schwartz, and he can coach defensive football.
Yeah. They did lose their right tackle for the season. That will be somewhat of a problem, and I'm still not sold, Sal. Deshaun Watson. He is not the Deshaun Watson that played in Houston. He's not there yet. I don't know how long a warm-up he needs, but he's not there yet for the Browns. But that division could be wide open now, Sal. The AFC.
Yeah, I think what we saw, Pat, we revealed 3 teams that have championship-level defenses in week one, and this is not an overreaction. And I'm not overstating it. Dallas, Cleveland is number 2. And the third one would be, who's the third one ahead in a tremendous, and the Jets.
Green Bay. Well, you could say Green Bay. I would say the Packers.
The Packers would be 4. And the Jets, they have championship level defenses. Yeah. They do.
Oh, no. Okay. You were talking defenses. You are correct. I thought you were referring to week one surprises, meaning teams have really stepped up. But I wanted to get a word from you about the Packers. And that kid, Jordan Love, I think he learned something from Aaron Rodgers. His delivery, I think, is very similar. He gets rid of the ball very quick. He's got a good arm. I think the Packers may be a little better than advertised.
Yeah, and from just my personal preseason predictions, I thought the Bears would be a lot better. I'm sure that the general manager there, Brian Pace, I looked at the film and I saw 0 execution on the offensive line.
Yes.
Which is a problem. Teams, it's so funny. Teams have problems that they just can't get rid of.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. It is. Right. It is. Right. The Jets, the quarterback position, the Bears, the offensive line. It's those teams that fix their problems, whether they're new or old, that move on, survive. Hey, Pat, 17-game schedule, survive in advance. It's a war of attrition at the quarterback position, Pat. Well, we've talked about it at all. It's a war of attrition at the quarterback position.
And there are some quarterbacks, Sal. They had bad weeks on opening day, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm talking about, obviously, guys like Daniel Jones, guys like Justin Fields, Geno Smith.
Josh Allen, Joe Burrow.
Right. Now, I expect those guys to rebound. But those middle-of-the-road guys I talked about, and that's what Daniel Jones is and all, those teams, they're going to go to hell in a quick handbasket if those guys don't step up. It'll be very interesting to see how.
I was really super impressed with the way the Eagles fought. Pat, in the rain, on Tom Brady Day, against Belichick, who was making adjustments for his adjustments. Pat, I'm telling you, that was a great coaching performance by that team, given that those players had not played at all in the preseason, and to survive. And I'm telling you, they're taking a lot of criticism in the Philadelphia area. Not from me. No, definitely not from me. But I was there. I watched it, and I did that broadcast with Steve Levy, and I got to tell you, it was impressive. I thought they were going to lose, and they fought through that adversity and won.
Well, How about it? Give me another 1 point off prediction for Thursday night, Sal. All right? See if you can nail this one right on the number.
You want me to go 2 for 2 in the first 2 games, Pat? All right, here we go. I'm gonna have the Eagles winning this one 27-17.
All right. I don't think it'll be that close. All right, 27-17. I'm writing that down, but I think it's going to be worse.
27-17. Why? Because I don't think the Eagles offense is ready yet. They're still trying to find their way. I don't see them getting 4 touchdowns yet. You know, the benchmark, Pat, is 4 touchdowns in a game.
Right.
So that's what separates those teams that go to the Super Bowl and don't. And they're not there yet. It'll take some time.
All right, Sal Pal, get back here and relax a little bit for a couple hours, and then we'll see you Thursday night at the link. Look forward to that. And then I'm sure you'll be back at it in week 2. And the matchup show is
Saturday morning on ESPN2
right?
at 8:30 and Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. But, you know, it streams or on DVR.
All right.
I'm looking forward to getting back to Philly, hang out at that Pat Callahan Hacienda in Ocean City. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. Appreciate that very much, Sal. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to talking to you again next week. All right. All right. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me there. Appreciate that segment very much. We covered about the whole league. We're going to do it again with my next guest, the man who predicted the Rams would go out to Seattle and win that game. So, of course, I got to have him on. That will be Sean Green from Bet SGPN. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.